Good afternoon, class. So today is 11th of October, and we will have to cover the current affairs of today. So the first news is related to the farmers in the East Sea Little Hope in Steer. Now, please remember there have been allocation and other kind of problem that have earlier been put to forefront before the struggle began. So what kind of things we are talking about? Firstly, we are talking about the western states who have been at the major beneficiaries or in the major beneficiaries with regard to the procurement or the PDA system that is launched by the government. Now, in the backdrop of it, there are two things that are needed to be taken care of. The eastern states are not finding it very beneficial because the procurement for the eastern states are very less for the central government, and they might be, I think, happy with regard to the decentralization if any kind of decentralization ought to be happening, and they would be more than happy to basically use it. So I hope this is clear. इसको छोड़ दीजिए, वैसे important article नहीं है. The next news is related to Taiwan flashpoint in Indo-Pacific. So today we will, as I was telling you, I think for 1 or 2 days that the Taiwan issue will be coming up, and today is the day that it have finally came up. So what is the issue with the Taiwan flashpoint? First of all, what are the things that are needed to be heard? First of all, we have China versus USA. That is the new confrontation that will continue at the Taiwan state, and in that we have seen different kind of problem that are currently existing. So you have to remember there are two nations. One is Taiwan. Actually, they are one nation, but they have different, you can say, loyalties and objective with regard to when it comes to nation building. So let us talk about first of all what is happened in the era during the time of Mao Zedong. So in 1911 there was Qing dynasty which fall, and after that there was a war between the communists and the nationalists. The communists basically won in 1949, and all the nationalists at that particular time who called themselves as the one country, they fled to Taiwan. Taiwan is established by the original Chinese people, and they exist over there. Now, there was a person called as Chiang. He left for Taiwan, and he vowed to basically fought against communists, and he said that we will recover the mainland China sooner or later. But after some decades, that is 50 or 60 or 70 odd years, the China have become more powerful a country in comparison to Taiwan and the country of Hong or the special administrative region of Hong Kong. Now, please remember the objective of both the countries same. Taiwan basically want to reunification, but they want to take China under control. On the other hand, China is basically hoping for the reunification or the peaceful reunification with regard to the one country principle when it will combine with Taiwan. Now, when we talk about this, the PRC, that is the People Republic of China, is following a policy of carrot and stick, in which they basically are offering something and then they are beating Taiwan. USA have recently recognized the establishment of the relation with Taiwan. That is the one thing. Other than that, this is a one country and two system in which Hong Kong, after gaining independence from UK in 1997, has been allowed three kind of things. Firstly, there will be free market. Secondly, there will be political and judicial function. And thirdly, there will be democratic functions. That is, they will be allowed to function in the democracy according to their own will. Now, with regard to the Taiwan, everything is the same as the Hong Kong, but only extra addition is the army retention during the transition period. So the perception of China is that the Taiwan unification with one country principle is that the transition period have gone and we are looking for a peaceful reunification of Taiwan with the mainland China. On the other hand, Taiwan sees in opposite manner. Taiwan says that we are also looking for the reunification, but it is reunification on the basis of the people of Taiwan if they wanted to or if they not wanted to. So any intimidating attitude by the Chinese authorities is bound to be repelled with force. If they use force, it is definitely going to be replied with force. So that has been the case that have happened. Other than that, China have adopted economic reforms, and in those economic reforms there have been issues with regard to the availability of the things and availability of the issues. So there have been problem with regard to the criteria and the other things that we generally need. So what kind of things we are currently focusing upon? First of all, we have to see the trade relation between the two nations. The first one is the invested capital in China. When we talk about the Taiwanese capital investment in China, it is about 188 billion, and there is 150 billion cross trade that is generally happening between the two nations. So China basically want to plug this particular gap, the relation or the economic interdependence of the countries. However, from the side of China, it is not very much, but from the side of Taiwan, it is very much. So basically, we talked about the two parties which are existing in Taiwan. One is the KMT party. The KMT is basically the mainland Taiwanese Chinese party that has been in existence for a long term now. And in that long-term existence, there have been people who have come to island in 1949, and they have been committed to one China principle, but they want that China to be established under Taiwan. The second one is the Democratic Progressive Party. This is the New Age Party, and this New Age Party is basically established over there, which is more representative of the indigenous population, and they want basic independence to be established. Now, with regard to that, the DPP leader, that is the Tsai Ing-wen, when he was elected, he is basically seeing the hostile action of China with the economic and the military pressures. He does not want to basically follow one country and two systems, and it is promoted by Deng Xiaoping. And independence status sentiment have basically increased. When we talk about United States, the absolute relations between the two nations, that is Taiwan, in 1979, they have basically recognized the country of China, and in that they have also recognized the principle that China is surely going to be the one country, one nation principle, and not the two country, two nation principle. But over the time, what have happened, they have realized that the individual relationships or the active participation with regard to the Taiwan is also useful for the containment of the Chinese authorities, because they are growing in influence and they are growing in economy. So what they are trying to do, they are basically having engagement that are active to talks, and also the senior level officials are visiting one another, and they are also opening a channel for communication so that a healthy relation between the nation could be maintained. China is ferocious with USA basically for meddling into the affairs, because they consider Taiwan as their internal territory. So as I have already earlier told you, that China is basically the second Pakistan of India, or China is what is Taiwan to China is similar to Kashmir to India. The only difference is that Kashmir does not have a standing army, but Taiwan have a standing army with regard to its functioning and with regard to the objectivity. So I hope this is clear, but there are other factors also that have basically come in. That is the AUKUS, that is the Quad, and any person who have graduated to the nuclear power submarine, that is the only another concern for the Chinese authority right now. We have seen the establishment of the AUKUS on the sidelines of the Quad. So Quad was an organization that was basically assumed to be take the military and the defense role, but in that military and the defense role, it has been basically rejected by the Indian authorities basically. However, Australia, Japan and Australia wanted it to be a military alliance, but it was objected by them. So other than that, there have been a new organization that have taken in place in which UK, US and Australia are participating. And in that particular issue, the US, UK and Australia, the three countries have basically agreed that there will be a supply of submarines, that is the nuclear power submarines, to the Australian continent for the safety in the region. So that has been the another case that have happened here. Okay? इसको ध्यान रखिएगा. The next one is the many questions arising from the QES data. So this is the quarterly employment survey. What does the quarterly employment survey say? The quarterly employment survey says that there have been an increase with regard to the employment, that is 28% year on year. That is from 2013, that is the last economic census, to this economic census, that is the census of 2016. Now, with regard to that, there have been problems with regard to the coverage. When we talk about coverage, there are 10 or more workers that are in the organized sector, and the verification of the records has not been done by the persons who have been collecting the survey. So, in simple terms, just remember two facts. The government is arguing that the quarterly employment survey have shown an increase in the employment. On the other hand, what kind of data they have collected is seriously questionable from the government part. So when we talk about India signed the issue or the data that is being collected, all the persons where 10 or more persons are basically employed, that too from the organized sector, only that particular data is being taken. So when we talk about economic census, the economic census of the country basically collects data about any organization which have 10 or more employees within a particular company, institute, or MSME. So let's say there is a furniture factory in the locality and it employs 9 employees. It will not be conducted into the economic survey. If it is a let's say particular shop that does not have more than 9 employees, more than 10 employees, it will not be calculated into the economic survey. So what is the objective or the argument of Mr. K.R. Shyam Sundar is, he says that the data that you have collected is only for the organized sector, and on the organized sector you are assuming or presuming that the employment have increased. However, if you see year on year increase from the last to the latest economic survey, now two things please remember. Let's say earlier in the family there were only the total monthly income of your family is 1 lakh rupees. Over the year what happened, your children get employed, so the family income basically increased from 1 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees. So the capacity of you to buy also increases. Now K.R. Shyam Sundar holds the same argument. He says that when the people have come of age or the economy or the GDP of the state have increased, we were earlier at $1.9 trillion. Now we are currently at $2.9 trillion. So that is the only subsequent increase you are seeing in the employment. Because if the GDP is increasing, that means the people who are working are increasing. However, you have to ascertain it to the fact that there are not many growth with regard to the employment rates in India. That is the first argument he makes. And he says that if you compare directly with the exact and the crude data, there is actually a decline, not an increase of 28% as the government is showing. The second part, he says that when it comes to unorganized sector, the unorganized sector have lost maximum amount of jobs. And when we talk about PLFS survey, it has shown that there is an increase of 6.1% unemployment rate. So what is unemployment rate? Unemployment rate is a type of a rate in which there are three things that are satisfied. First of all, the person should be qualified enough to get a job. Let's say you are a person who is a graduate, so you should be able to do all the jobs that basically confines a graduate person to do. The second, you should be willing to do the job. And secondly, you should be actively looking in the market for the jobs. So basically what I'm trying to say, let's say you have a graduation degree, but you are sitting at home not doing anything, you will not be counted as unemployed. If you are in the market, you have the job, you are willing to do the job, but you are not looking for the job, you will not be regarded as unemployed. Only when the three conditions are satisfied, you are a graduate, you possess the qualification, you work for the qualification, and then you are actively looking for the employment, then only you will be basically considered for the unemployed category in the country of India. So I hope this is clear. So that is a huge difference. That is 6.1%. There are 6.1% of the people that are actively looking for jobs, possess the degree and willing to do the jobs for the pay scale that is being offered to them, but still are not able to get the jobs. So that has been the case that have happened here. On the other hand, there is a CMI survey. CMI survey basically is a survey that generally is conducted on the salaried class of the private sector. So in the salaried class of the private sector, it has been found that over the last 1.5 years, there have been 3.4 million jobs that are being shed. So when we talk about 3.4 million jobs, that generally amounts to 34 lakh people who have been sent home by the private companies. So the condition of the private companies is not good. And we have already seen the article with regard to the service sector. For the very first time in the service sector, there have been induction by some of the service sector only because there have been a issue with regard to the festive season, because you need manpower. So that has been the other case that has happened here. So इस बात को ध्यान रखिएगा. The next one is US outlines a softer focus for Quad. So this is again the change of approach specifically with regard to India. So they have said that it is a non-defense, non-military arrangement, and vaccine, infra, supply chain, technology and climate are the things we will be debating about. People and people ties are needed to be revived. We need energy corporation and other things. And AUKUS is basically going to be the major force and major player behind corporation or the security of the Indo-Pacific region. But that has been the case that is currently happening. The next one is India-China discuss disengagement. So again, the 13 commander level talks are basically happening on the border at Moldo on the Chinese side of the LAC, and Lieutenant General PJK Menon has basically conducted the survey, they have talked about the survey, and how successful it will be, we do not know. But still, the talks are going on, and we are talking about disengagement, peaceful resolution of the problems, and the solutions that could be implemented that would be suitable for either sides. But India has issued a statement that there are unreasonable and unjustifiable demands that are made by the Chinese side, which are not acceptable to the Indian side under any part, and it is directly in conflict with the sovereignty of the nation and direct violation of the standing agreement that we have earlier signed with the Chinese authorities. So what we have to do, we have to take a step back and meet in the halfway so that we can agree to the disengagement in the sensitive points. But I think you already understand the world politics. I have already told you that China C equal to C plus C. So China is equal to competition plus confrontation. That is the basic fund of China. You remember these three words? The whole Chinese summary can be summarized, or whole Chinese authorities, or the relation between India and China could be understood. We are competing in some way for trade, for relation, for alliances, and we are confronting in some ways. So for in confrontation, we can talk about Afghanistan, we can talk about Pakistan, we can talk about borders. We can also talk about the engagement with regard to the international alliances such as nuclear supply group. What is nuclear supply group? We will talk about later. But there are certain other things that can be said. So with China, there are two policies we are following: competition and confrontation. Competition on one side and confrontation on another side. I hope this is clear. Further moving on, please remember the Denmark Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and husband Bo Thunberg in visit to Taj Mahal. This is the one monument we generally show to everybody. Okay, so next one is the statement that is issued by Taiwan that there will be no pressure to bow down China. This is said by Tsai. The next one is scientist behind Pak nuclear bomb A.Q. Khan passes away. So he dies. He was accused of trading secrets with Iran and North Korea. So A.Q. Khan was the person who was behind the nuclear. The next one is Iran make 20% more enriched uranium. So they are on the verge of creating 120 kg of 20% enriched nuclear program, and already we have seen that there is a hardline regime that is basically established in that particular country that could create a trouble for the regional stability as a whole, and also with regard to the issues that are happening over there. So I hope this is clear. Okay, so that is it for today.